had a dream. It was when I was fighting for the NCR. There was a crowd, and they were chanting my name. I can't remember what I did, but I knew it wasn't right. I was a hero to them, but it made me sick. Their chants kept ringing in my ears. Over and over they cried, and it wouldn't stop. And then, in the calm still of the morning, I woke from my nightmare. The desert air was just starting to warm when I opened my eyes. I sat up and rubbed my sore neck and back, as the horrible mattress had been barely better than sleeping on the ground. I had that dream frequently, a memory of my service in the army. That memory was one of another package, one that changed the fate of an entire region of the Mojave, and it was my fault for carrying it. I got up and tried to push the thoughts of the dream from my mind. I started by heading back up to the cemetery. It's not that I'd had a connection to the place, just that I forgot to search around a bit for any clues to my killers. Hopefully the search would distract me from my memories. The first thing I found was the most surprising, the corpse of a baby deathclaw. I took a look around to make sure there weren't any adults around, but even the corpse scared me. Deathclaws were the apex predators of the wastes, and though I had never seen an adult up close, I knew what they were capable of. I started my investigation for anything that could help me by looking around the still open grave and found something strange. A pile of distinct cigarette butts. That's when I remembered that the man in the checkered suit was smoking them the night he tried to kill me. I reached down and grabbed one before shoving it into my bag. Maybe when I started tracking him, it might jog someone's memory. I then noticed something else, a small glass snow globe and a 9mm pistol sitting on the nearby grave. It looked as though they had been sitting there for some time, and though I wasn't much of a grave robber, I was desperate. So I took them both, thinking I could sell them for some caps. The gun was too fancy for my taste, and it reminded me of the one the man in the checkered suit used to put a hole in my head. Still, it should sell. After making sure I wasn't missing anything, I made my way back down to town and over to the old schoolhouse Sunny Smiles and mentioned the day before. I was in need of caps, and if that old building had something, anything I could sell, then it would be worth it. I pulled out the 9mm pistol I picked up back in the graveyard and checked it over. If there was anything in there, it wouldn't be much bigger than a mole rat, so the pistol would do just fine. I opened the door and stepped in. Inside, I could hear the sound of critters moving about, and sure enough, I could make out a baby mantis just ahead. I'd seen these things grow to the size of a small dog, but these were tiny in comparison. Child's play. I started to search the place but found little to scavenge. Sonny was right. This place had been picked over, other than a few caps in an old locker. Then, I found the safe. I knew I couldn't pick it, so I pulled out the magazine Sonny had given me and gave it a quick look through. I learned just enough from those pages to work out what to do, and soon, the lock sprung open. There wasn't much of value inside other than some caps, a few drugs I could sell, and some pre-war money. There was, however, a stealth buoy, old world tech that would allow the wearer to be nearly invisible. That was a decent find. As soon as I was finished, I made my way over to the general store, where I met a man named Chet for the first time. He had the aura of a smarmy businessman about him, but he was the only game in town, and I was desperate to sell off the small amount of loot I had procured.
You must be the one Doc Mitchell was patching up. The way I heard it, I didn't think you'd be walking out of that office. I've got plenty of supplies for sale. Even got some weapon mods and special ammo. Well worth the caps if you ask me. If you're hurting for caps, I've also got boxes of surplus ammo in the miscellaneous section. They're not great, but you get what you pay for.
I decided to ask him if he knew anything about the men who attacked me, seeing as how they may have traded with him.
The leader was a New Vegas type. Typical city boy. He had a bunch of great cons with him, probably hired guns. The Great Khans normally stay in their own territory way up northwest, on account of them being enemies with the NCR.
You ever make your way out to New Vegas?
Twice. Both times I drank a lot of liquor and lost most of my caps at the card tables. In that order, now that I think about it. If you ever get to New Vegas, be sure to visit Gomorrah. It's the best casino in the city. You won't regret it. Word of advice, behave. Between the NCR military police and Mr. House's robots, you don't want to be causing trouble on the strip.
Fools and drunks part with money easily. Know anything about those cons?
They're tough sons of bitches. Mean, but not crazy. They'll leave you alone unless you got something they want. The Great Khans deal in illegal chems. There's a good chance that most chems you come across were made by Great Khans.
You said something about a Mr. House. What can you tell me about him?
I'm afraid I don't know much myself. Mr. House has got his own casino, Lucky 38, but nobody goes in or out except his robots. The other casinos follow Mr. House's rules, so I guess that makes him the leader of New Vegas. As far as I know, nobody's ever laid eyes on the guy. I think that robot who pulled you out of the dirt belongs to Mr. House. If Mr. House is looking after you, it's got to be a good thing, right?
Well, thanks for the information. Let's see what you have in stock. I got a few things to sell myself.
Can do.
This is all I need. Say, while we're at it, what do you think about all that stuff with that man Ringo and those bandits?
Another satisfied customer. If Ringo doesn't head out on his own, I think we should hand him over. The town shouldn't get itself mixed into the problem. Don't mistake that for coward talk, though. We're a town of survivors. We'll fight tooth and nail if pushed, but we don't go looking for trouble.
Well, that will do it for me. Thanks.
Take it easy now.
I turned to leave Chet's store, leaving that coward to himself, though I didn't say it out loud. When I got outside, I had already made up my mind. I wasn't much of a lawman, but I hated seeing good folk get pushed around by others just because they had less power. Just because you're strong, that doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want to. So I started up the little road towards the gas station where I knew I'd find this Ringo character everyone was talking about. Little did I know I was about to bite off a big piece of trouble. I approached the old gas station cautiously and made sure my pistol was loaded before entering, and was met by an angry voice the moment I stepped in.
That's close enough. Who are you, and what do you want with me?
Hold your horses there, friend. I came to help.
Sorry about the gun. You just caught me off guard, that's all. We got off to a bad start. What say we start over with a friendly game of Caravan? You know how to play?
Do you know who's looking for you?
Yeah. He doesn't look very tough, though. I hear he's afraid I'll shoot him down from one of the windows when I see him. And he's right. I'll have a much bigger problem once his friends show up. There's no way I could handle all of them in a gunfight.
Why are they after you?
My caravan was on the return trip from California and heading back to the company branch in New Vegas when we got jumped. Not even a drop your weapons and hands up before the bullets started flying. We put up a good fight, but there was too many of them. I took a few of the bandits down before I ran, so I figure their friends are out for revenge.
Well, I didn't come here to whistle and chat. What's your plan to deal with those outlaws?
I'm gonna lay low for as long as I can, assuming the town doesn't throw me to the wolves. I've got no chance against the gang on my own.
If you'll pay, I'm in.
All I've got left on me are a handful of caps, but you get me out of this and I'll make sure the Crimson Caravan pays you back. You've got my word.
Now that didn't sound like a bad deal at all. The Crimson Caravan was powerful, so I offered up my services.
We'd just end up sharing the same grave if it's just the two of us. Now, if some of the other people in town were also on board...
I'll ask around and see who's stupid enough to join us.
Start with Sunny Smiles. She's been friendlier than most around here.
I turned and left without another word. Right now, it was just two of us against a gang. Long odds, even when I had two eyes. Sunny was the first on my list of recruits. I figured her as one who wouldn't turn down a fight, not when that gang was threatening her. Hopefully she would have a few more suggestions. I entered the saloon and got straight to the point.
Hi there. Sticking around Good Springs for a while longer?
I'm helping Ringo fight the bandits.
Say no more. I'm in.
Just like that?
Just like that. I have a feeling that I'm going to end up fighting those guys one way or another, so I might as well get it over with. Joe Cobb talks about leaving us alone if we hand over Ringo, but I know his type. He and his friends will come after the town eventually. However, between you, me, and Ringo, we aren't exactly a force to be reckoned with. A lot of people around here look up to Trudy. If you could convince Trudy to join us, some of the folks in town might decide to help out as well. I know Easy Pete's got a stock of dynamite somewhere, and Chet just got a shipment of leather armor we could borrow. Talk to them as well. Finally, there's a good chance we'll all end up with extra holes in us. So if Doc Mitchell could cough up some extra stim packs, that'd be great. A silver tongue would help. Convincing Trudy that we had a good plan to win the fight would also help.
I doubt Chet would be willing to part with much of anything.
I don't think give is in Chet's vocabulary. Even with the town at stake, he'd still make you barter with him.
What about Pete's dynamite?
Easy Pete's pretty protective of his dynamite. You'd have to convince him you know a thing or two about explosives before you handed it over.
Sounds good. I'll get on it.
I'll be waiting.
Well, that made 3 of us. Trudy was my next stop, but I wasn't sure if I could convince her yet. I needed a plan, but I figured talking to her couldn't hurt, so I made my way around to the bar to speak with her.
So you're planning on taking on Joe Cobb's gang. It's a big risk, but I suppose you have to do what you think is right.
I could tell she was uneasy with the situation, and without a plan in mind just yet, I simply nodded and ordered a sarsaparilla before leaving the saloon.
Be careful out there.
I needed more information on these men, these powder gangers.
Hello?
I remember someone mentioning they could be found closer to Prim, so I figured heading south for a small scouting mission would be a good idea. I checked my gear, and then I started my way out into the wastes. Just before I got out of town, I found Joe Cobb standing beside an old building. I was tempted to put a bullet in his head right then and there, but I knew that Trudy and the other townsfolk wouldn't like that. I had few friends at the moment, and I didn't need to go off and cause problems with them. Instead, I stopped and tried to strike up a conversation.
What do you want?
Who's this Ringo feller you've been asking about?
He's some traitor who decided he'd rather shoot than pay the toll for being in our territory. He's hiding somewhere in town. Would serve these idiots right if me and my guys shot the place up after we got payback on Ringo.
Bold words, claiming this whole area as your territory.
It is now. Me and the rest of the guys busted out of the NCR prison east of here and took over. Now we're calling the shots.
What did you end up in prison for?
None of your damn business. You ought to know better than to ask a man that kind of question.
I did know better, but I was hoping to goad him into pulling his gun. I could outdraw him, and it could end things here and now, so I pressed him.
Like I said, mind your own damn business.
Fine, have it your way. You hear anything about what's going on in the rest of the wastes?
Same old shit that's been going on for years. The NCR and Legion are still fighting over Hoover Dam for some reason.
I've heard quite a bit about the Legion. What do you know about them?
I've run with some tough gangs, but I gotta admit, they all got nothing on the Legion. I hear they stick you up on poles and it takes a while to die. I ain't saying I'm afraid of them or nothing, but I'll be staying out of their way.
And what about the NCR?
New California Republic. Nothing new about it, just a bunch of people with money and power pushing everyone else around. They've got troops all over the Mojave, but it's a big desert, so it's pretty easy to avoid them if you want.
Well, good luck. I'm sure we'll meet again, I said with the hint of a threat.
Yeah.
Know your enemy. An old proverb that still holds true. I could have killed him there, but I didn't. His time would come. Men like that always got what was coming to them. Instead, I continued my way out of town to see what I could learn about this gang of his. I stopped by the well we had cleared the day before to get some water, and I found a man pacing back and forth. It was clear he was agitated, and as I got close, he started rambling about needing my help.
Hello? Can you help me?
That depends on what you need.
My girl is trapped by geckos on the ridge, and I can't get to her. Please, she's going to die.
Something seemed off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was there. I went along for the moment by telling him I could lend a hand.
Go up the path, past the broken radio tower, and go to the right. They're at the top of the trail.
Suppose I can see what I can do.
You will? Thank you for helping me. Please hurry.
I pulled out my varmint rifle and started up past the broken tower he had pointed at. I found the first gecko unaware and took it by surprise. Damn, only winged it. I needed a more powerful weapon if I was going to handle anything bigger than geckos, but it was what I had, so it would have to do for now. I reloaded and found another gecko, and this time I took a deep breath to steady my aim. One shot, one kill. Then I took out the one that had run away. 2 down, but there were more, and I could hear them further on up the ridge. 2 more came running around the rock, and I unloaded my rifle into them. It hit like a couple of stones being thrown, so in one motion I whipped out my pistol and fired 2 shots. 2 more kills. The final straggler got a shotgun blast to the head. There were a few more up ahead, but something still didn't feel right. I didn't hear any screams. No one called for help. Either the girl was dead or something else was at play here. I took the rest of the geckos easy and then made my way up the hill. There was no girl, just a couple bodies that looked real old. There was a small stash with some caps, a pistol, and some ammo, but not much else. I started back down the hill, and I heard footsteps ahead. I readied my pistol, just in case.
Sorry I tricked you, but thanks for clearing out the geckos. Now I can get to that stash up there, after I deal with you.
That was a poor choice, kid. 2 bullets later and the man lay dead on the ground. This is why you always took caution when dealing with folks in the wastes. Few are ever who you think they are, and everyone seems to be climbing over everybody else to get to the scraps. Like rats after crumbs of bread. I searched the man and then started my way south again. I remembered the man at Frankie's Guns told me about a small shack just off the road that was frequented by the powder gangers. So that was my destination. That was the first man I had killed since leaving the army, and it surprised me how unbothered I was by the killing. Once a killer, always a killer, I guess. My thoughts were interrupted when I found myself outside an old skydiving shop, the shack Frankie had mentioned. I crept around a bit, and sure enough I found 3 powder gangers loitering behind the shack. They were all obviously drunk and sat about mumbling about the NCR and how they were going to make them pay. 3-on-1 would be tough, even with drunkards, so instead I tried to sneak my way into the shack to see if I could find anything. Damn, I hope the bandits outside didn't hear that. I waited for a moment to make sure the coast was clear before searching the shack. He had winged me. Nothing bad, but it was a reminder to be more careful. I doubt I had enough luck left to survive another death. On him, he had a .45 caliber pistol and some ammo, and on the desk I found a key to a nearby locker. Inside was some ammo and an old revolver. It wasn't much, but at least it would be worth a couple caps. Before I left, I noticed a small set of doors in the corner, and the same key fit. I was stunned to find an entire underground bunker below. I could hear footsteps and voices echoing ahead, so I crept forward as carefully and as quietly as I could. I turned a corner and I came face to face with a powder ganger. I unloaded all 5 shots into him, and he fell down the stairs in a bullet-ridden heap. More came around the stairs and I fired at them, wounding one and killing another. I took a bullet to the shoulder and I felt pain course through my left arm. I killed another, but took a shot to the side as well. My head spun from the pain, but I managed to slam a stim pack into my arm, numbing the wounds for a time. Another down, but they were pressing me now. I had to finish this. Fast.
They killed him!
I chased the man down the stairs, my bullet wound seething with every breath and every step. Only one shot left, so I had to make it count. My gun clicked harmlessly at the last of the raiders, and I darted to the side before pulling out my shotgun. The first 2 shots winged him, but the third put him down for good. My ears were ringing from the gunfire. The smoke cleared, and I saw the carnage around me. I had just killed 7 men in less than 2 minutes. 7 lives ended. I took a deep breath to calm myself and felt my wounds healing from the stim pack I had injected earlier. That was close. Too close. I had gotten lucky. 7 on 1 should have been impossible odds, but thankfully I had gotten the jump on them. Once again I should have been dead, but I wasn't. Somehow I had scraped by, narrowly avoiding death that took others without remorse. After a moment I began searching the room and the bodies and came away with some decent loot to sell. That, and now I knew more about my enemies. They were decent fighters but poorly organized. They worked independently, not as a team, and didn't seem to employ tactics of any kind. They relied on their intimidation to scare others into submission, but if I could take down 7 of them alone, then Ringo, Sonny, and I together definitely stood a chance. I climbed out of the bunker and crept out of the shack. It was dark now, and I could hear the few bandits still celebrating behind the shack. Once I was further away, I hightailed it down the road and back to town. It was late by the time I got back to Good Springs, so I made my way back to the disgusting mattress inside the abandoned trailer. I had done a lot today, taken the lives of more than 8 men, all of whom deserved the bullets I gave them. It reminded me of an old saying, if you stick your hand in front of a snake, then don't complain when you get bit. Those men got themselves killed long ago. I just carried the bullets for a while. I lay down on that old mattress and tried to get some shut-eye, with my last thoughts dwelling on how it felt good to be back in the saddle again. Not the killing, mind you, but rather helping good folk. Really helping them, not just ferrying packages across the wasteland for caps. No, I was going to help Ringo out of this mess, and I was going to make sure the people of Good Springs were safe. One way or another,